Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something you probably see every day, maybe even wear yourself: fitness trackers.
Smartwatches, fitness bands.
Exactly. But we're not diving into step counts. We're exploring the surprising security risks they can create, especially when used by military personnel.
Yeah, it's a fascinating angle. We've looked at a report covering specific incidents, technical weak points, and how military policies have had to adapt.
Right. And our mission here is to really unpack how these gadgets, which seem so harmless, can actually open up some serious national security vulnerabilities. We want to get you those aha moments.
We've got some pretty stark examples that show how the tech tracking your run could, expose a lot more than just your route.
Okay, so let's start with the obvious. Fitness trackers, smartwatches, they're everywhere now, right? Part of everyday life for so many people.
Absolutely. And that ubiquity is what first got the Department of Defense interested. The potential for monitoring health, readiness.
Makes sense. Tracking activity, sleep, overall fitness. It seems logical for performance.
For sure. The idea was to optimize readiness, maybe even flag health issues early. The report mentions an Army pilot program back in 2013.
Oh, yeah.
Involved about 2,200 soldiers, testing the waters, seeing what these devices could offer.
But clearly that initial sort of enthusiasm ran into some problems, security realities.
That's precisely. That tension between the benefits, the health tracking, the data, and the absolute need for operational security, it became very real very quickly.
Okay, let's get into those cases then, because that's where you really see the impact. The Strava Global Heat Map from 2018, that seems like a good place to start.
Definitely a big one. So Strava, it's a social network for athletes, right? They published this heat map showing user activity over 2 years. Sounds kind of cool, maybe harmless.
Yeah, visually interesting, maybe, but
this aggregated data accidentally mapped out activity around military bases worldwide, including some secret ones.
Secret bases in places like Syria and Afghanistan.
Exactly. And the report notes that experts said identifying these wasn't even hard, like really simple. Pinpointing locations, activity patterns.
Wow. So it wasn't just a blob on a map, it showed activity inside the bases.
That's the critical part.
Yeah.
It could potentially show troop movements, patrol routes, even just where people jogged regularly inside supposedly secure areas.
Oh, okay. That's alarming.
And there's a really chilling example mentioned: repeated jogging loops that perfectly outlined a suspected nuclear weapons storage site in Turkey.
You're kidding. Just from people jogging.
Just from people jogging and tracking it. It shows the danger of what we call aggregated metadata. It's not just one person's run, it's the pattern created when you put everyone's data together. Location, time. Like, it paints a picture.
That's a powerful illustration. Putting innocent data points together creates a security nightmare. Okay, what happened next? There was another incident around the same time.
Yes, also in 2018, involved Polar fitness trackers. A flaw was found in their Polar Flow app, specifically the Explore feature.
Okay, what did that expose?
It exposed personal data. We're talking names, profile pictures, and precise locations of users, going all the way back to 2014.
Not just location this time, but names and faces. Who did this affect?
Some very sensitive personnel. The report estimates around 6,400 high-level individuals across 69 countries, people from the NSA, U.S. Secret Service, UK's GCHQ and MI6, Russia's GRU.
Seriously, that's huge. What kind of locations were exposed?
Highly sensitive ones: Guantanamo Bay, bases in Erbil in Afghanistan, nuclear storage sites, again, military airfields. Yeah. This wasn't just about mapping a base. It was linking specific people to specific sensitive locations.
Which ramps up the risk massively. Targeting espionage.
Exactly. It moved from operational security risks to direct threats against individuals.
And the report mentions a more recent one, too, involving the French military.
Yeah, 2023. This concerned the Ailong submarine base in France. It's a top-secret facility for their nuclear submarines.
Okay, highly sensitive. What happened there?
Crew members were using Strava, and their recorded runs, often along the docks where the submarines are moored, revealed their location and potentially their schedules.
How could it reveal schedules?
Well, the report mentions one officer logging multiple runs right along the docks, including exact times and dates. But more broadly, analysts noticed patterns.
Patterns like?
Like when groups of personnel suddenly stopped recording runs and then started again later. The cessation and resumption of activity strongly suggested when submarines were leaving for patrols and when they returned.
Just from fitness data, that's incredible.
And apparently over 450 Strava users linked to the French military had been active at that base over the preceding decade. It really shows how hard it is to enforce security policies, even somewhere that critical.
These examples are stark, so let's dig into the why. What makes these commercial trackers so vulnerable technically? Is it just oversight?
Well, a big part of it is that commercial devices are usually built prioritizing user experience, features, cost. Maybe not hardcore security first.
So things like strong authentication might be weaker.
They could be. And data encryption, both on the device and when it's transmitted, might not be as robust as you'd want in a military context. It leaves data potentially open to being intercepted.
Convenience over security, in a way.
Often, yes. And then you have the wireless connections themselves, like Bluetooth.
What are the risks there?
Bluetooth can be vulnerable to eavesdropping, someone listening in on the data transfer. Also, denial of service attacks, basically flooding the device to stop it from working properly.
And it's not just the wristband itself, right? The apps and cloud storage play a role.
A huge role. Those associated mobile apps, the cloud platforms where data is stored, they all have their own potential vulnerabilities. Maybe insecure databases, weak encryption during transfer or storage.
And data sharing policies we might not even be aware of.
Exactly. Data being shared with third parties is common. Plus, there's a risk, maybe less common, but still real, that a compromised tracker could be used as an entry point for malware onto a connected phone or even a network.
Wow. That's quite a chain of potential vulnerabilities. So given all this, how did the military react? You mentioned that initial interest, the pilot program.
Right. Well, that Strava heat map incident in 2018 was definitely a wake-up call, a major turning point.
So what changed?
Initially, there were warnings. Guidance telling personnel to check their privacy settings, be careful what they share.
Kind of putting the onus on the user?
To an extent, yes. But as the scope of the risk became clearer, the policies got stricter. Restrictions, even outright bans, on using devices with geolocation features in sensitive locations or during deployments.
Have other countries reacted similarly?
Yes. The report notes China, for instance, outright banned wearables in its military, specifically because of these security concerns. And the U.S. Department of Defense is constantly reviewing and updating its policies. It's an ongoing challenge.
Makes sense. The tech keeps evolving, and the risks aren't just about location data leaking, are they?
No, definitely not. Breaches can expose detailed health metrics. Think about what that could reveal about someone's fitness, stress levels, sleep patterns, sensitive personal information.
Which could be exploited how?
For intelligence gathering, or potentially even blackmail or coercion. And remember the interconnectedness. A hacked wearable could be a stepping stone into other systems.
And you mentioned social engineering before. How does that fit in?
Information from these devices or related apps like workout locations, times, social connections within the app could be gold for an attacker crafting a targeted phishing email or pretexting call. Makes the attack much more believable.
Right. It adds that layer of personal detail that makes you lower your guard. Which brings us to the human element.
Yeah, it's critical. Technology is one thing, but human error is often the weak link. Some studies attribute like 88%. Even up to 95% of breaches, at least partly to human factors.
And with fitness trackers, what does that look like?
Simple things, often. Forgetting to change default privacy settings, not understanding the implications of sharing data publicly, clicking on a malicious link related to their fitness app, just mistakes or lack of awareness.
Which social engineering then preys on.
Precisely. Using that gathered info to manipulate someone into giving up credentials or installing malware.
It really paints a picture of complex threat, and the report puts this into the broader context of data security, right? These aren't just isolated military concerns.
No, not at all. Data breaches are a huge growing problem across the board. The average cost is soaring. The report mentions nearly $5 million per breach in 2024.
Wow.
And we've seen other major fitness app data exposures. Strava, again, apparently exposed routes used by bodyguards for world leaders, that Polar leak we discussed. And another one, Get Health, supposedly exposed 61 million records.
Good grief. So this fits into a much bigger pattern.
Absolutely. Think about massive breaches like the OPM hack affecting millions of U.S. government personnel records, or the Equifax breach hitting 145 million consumers. The causes are often similar. Cyber attacks exploiting vulnerabilities, system errors, and yes, human mistakes.
So when the military looks at using commercial tech like fitness trackers, there's this constant balancing act.
Exactly. Commercial off-the-shelf tech has big advantages. It's cheaper, innovation happens fast, logistics are easier.
But the downsides are significant for military use.
As we've seen, yes. Security often isn't the top priority in design. They aren't built for harsh military environments or specific defense needs.
So it's about finding a middle ground.
Yeah, a balanced approach.
Yeah.
Using commercial tech where it makes sense, but layering on strong policies, security safeguards, user training, and maybe even developing custom, more secure versions based on commercial components when necessary.
Okay, let's boil it down. What are the tangible, real-world consequences when this kind of data gets out?
Well, first, operational security gets compromised. Leaked location data can reveal secret bases, track troop movements, show daily routines, patrol routes, invaluable intelligence for an adversary.
And for the individuals?
Big personal safety risks, stalking, harassment, being targeted directly by adversaries or terrorist groups. It puts service members and potentially their families in danger.
And the bigger picture, national security.
It erodes trust. It can damage military capabilities if tactics or locations are exposed, and it represents significant intelligence gains for potential adversaries. The cumulative effect can be quite serious.
So looking ahead, what are the key recommendations for tackling this? How do you mitigate these risks?
It's really a combination of things. The report highlights strengthening policies, clear rules about when and where these devices can be used. Crucially, user education, making sure personnel truly understand the risks.
Technical fixes too.
Definitely. Enhancing technical security, better encryption, authentication, conducting proper risk assessments before deploying any tech, practicing data minimization, only collecting what's absolutely necessary.
And addressing that human element.
Yes, ongoing training and awareness programs focus specifically on social engineering tactics that might exploit fitness data.
This has been really eye-opening.